Transmission. 4-stage. But there is one caveat. I'm sure the car will stop, but not quite where you're planning. Fear lasts 32 seconds. During this time, you begin to distinctly hear how the ears suck in air, but more on that later. I could never understand, although of course, I understand, but I am perplexed. In motion, the Zaporozhets is much more comfortable, for example, the Volga. Not in the shoulders, of course. The suspension works out so well that you are amazed. And here's the nice thing. This is a plus in the device of the Soviet engineering. The suspension design was progressive, and today it has not lost its relevance. And I'm not talking about the front, as you might think, but about the back. Triangular, longitudinally swinging arms, and on the axle shafts there are 2 hinges on each side. Well, of course, springs and shock absorbers. The secret is in their fastening. The levers are not across, as usual, but along. And they do not work like a bird flapping its wings in flight. They work like a dolphin's tail, which goes along the roughness of the waves, and does not jump over them. For information, I will tell you that at that time this type of suspension was just coming into fashion and was advanced. Compare with the BMW of the 80s. But this model was developed in the USSR in 1961. They stole it, I tell you for sure. But that's why the spaciousness of the cabin could not be stolen? Do you know how to drive a Zaporozhets? 3 hands. With one hand you hold onto the steering wheel, with the second you shift gears, and with the third you wipe your tears. This is the most famous Soviet car. There are no people who do not know about its existence. It brings a smile, it is beautiful from the outside, but it's a pain to ride it. Something like this can be described as a car manufactured by the Zaporozhets automobile plant from the fraternal USSR. Meanwhile, for the Soviet era, the car was good. But most importantly, it is constantly refined. I will immediately debunk the myth that the car was copied from the NSU Prinz, or rather not this car, but its predecessor ZAZ 966. Both ZAZ and Prinz were issued in 1961. Soviet engineers physically could not copy it, but it was very easy to be inspired by other fashion models. Namely, the American Chevrolet Corvair. Of course, it was bigger than Zaporozhets. Although, in all honesty, I state that the eared one looks like NSU. I think it's about the Earth's ionosphere and the penetration of the information flow by ZAZ engineers. I can't find any other explanation. Let's forget about speculation and enjoy, it's beautiful. As I said, this model was constantly refined and modernized, childhood diseases were removed from it and performance was improved. And of course, it was pulled up to European safety standards. Visually, almost nothing has changed. Specifically, this car is a ZAZ 968 of the 79th year of release. This is the 3rd rebirth of the same machine, but it is the last big-eared one. The stamped, load-bearing body is very cute and very small. The false radiator grille, the so-called whalebone, disappeared from the front, but chrome appeared, her people call snot. The direction indicators slid down 1 level with the dimensions. In addition, yellow warts appeared on the wings. But the back is always recognizable, but there are some nuances. Look, the air intake ear has become shorter. The reversing bulbs have grown. But there are even more accents in the form of chrome here, which pleases. How fast does it get to 60? Are you laughing now? But it can speed up. It needs 32 seconds, and those seconds become torture. After 50 miles per hour, in addition to the sound of the engine, the oncoming wind, the sound of the exhaust system, there is another one. You begin to clearly hear the ears sucking in air. This machine is not designed for speed, but according to the documents, it can accelerate to 73 miles per hour. At the same time, the fuel consumption of this car was the best in the USSR, 1.7 gallons per 60 miles. It is also very convenient to steer this car because the steering wheel is light. You need to slow down in advance, very early. It is necessary to calculate, even to foresee the place where the car will finally stop. By modern standards, there are no brakes here. No, you can be sure that the car will stop, but not where you plan. But this is out of habit. And once you get used to it, you don't care anymore. By the way, there are drums everywhere. Brake dual circuit system, amplifier muscular. If we talk about the cabin, then they stuffed as much as they could cram in here. Fashionable, new for those times dashboard. The steering column is safety. The upholstery is socialist washable. The seats are from the VAZ 2101, as is the ignition switch. That is the case when it is better to go bad by car than to go well on foot. There are a few things that are dear to my heart in Zaporozhets. Saucers on the rear lights, of course striped hubcaps, and self-dancing curtains. Because it is difficult in this case to love something other than the atmosphere of the machine itself. For example, a motor. The design is ingenious, but too unreliable and stands in the wrong place. Air in the back. Its advantages are lightweight and easy to repair. There is no liquid here, which means there is nothing to flow. Not so simple. 3 stages of the oil apocalypse. The first one sweats with greasy spots, cries a little from under the seals and gaskets, and the final one pisses in black puddles under itself. As you can see, you need to keep a close eye on him. The MeMZ 968 air-cooled 73 cubic inch engine develops 40 horsepower at 4,200 RPM. It's no secret that the motor was developed more for military purposes, namely for the Army Lewis TPK. Therefore, he suffered from eternal overheating and the consequences of this. It's sad, but the Melitopol air vent was not outstandingly reliable. Engines rarely lived up to 6,000 miles. I'll tell you how it works. Air enters the engine compartment through the ears, is sucked in by the blower fan, passes through the radiator cooling oil jacket and exits the engine compartment through specially designed slots. That's how everything is set up here. I hope I was able to explain as simply as possible. Zaporozhets should be driven monotonously, then it will not overheat. Such a car, it is designed for quiet, slow driving. But that's how it should ideally be. But in fact, in Zaporozhets, it doesn't matter where to go. It has a flat bottom, you won't get caught anywhere. The clearance of almost 8 inches also contributed to overcoming mud and off-road. In addition, the main weight fell on the rear drive wheels. An engine with a small number of revolutions could turn the wheels very slowly and cover the required distance. But that is not all. To all the disadvantages of this machine, a curved landing is added. The fender sticks out, so the pedal assembly is slightly offset to the side. The gearbox is 4-speed, the speeds are synchronized, but if you do not service the gearbox assembly in time, then it will be difficult to understand which gear you have switched on. Here is such a system. There is a small trunk in the front. The explanation is very simple. And funny. It's about fighting for legroom. There should be legs under this floor, so the driver sits, as it were, very close to the front axle. The trunk contains a spare tire, a battery, and a fantastic legendary gas stove. Do you know anything about it? I can talk about it for hours, but it still won't affect its work. And here is the front suspension beam attached to this wall from below. From a technical point of view, this is very smart. The front suspension is independent, parallelogram type with a guide device. These are two double levers and two transverse stacked plate torsion bars. They are supported by springs and shock absorbers. A few words about Soviet tuning. What do you think it is? Maybe you think it's a sync net. No, this is a special classic two-layer but pillow. And how do you like the headrests from the VAZ 2101? At one time, I would have sold my homeland for them, but no one offered. But the coolest thing here is the wine corks on the wipers. At that time, wipers from cars often stole, so people took them home with them. And in order for them not to rub on the windshield and scratch it, they put corks. In addition, there is another interesting device here. On it you can set the speed of swinging the wipers. Great! Have you ever seen one like this on modern cars? And it still works. The whole problem is in a strange landing behind the wheel. It's really weird, I'm sitting like a gopher. Very low, felt below the waterline. I understand that the car is small, the bottom is low, but surprisingly, I cannot say that I am uncomfortable. The steering wheel really turns with one hand, even with one finger. But that's if you drive slowly. If you go fast, then such a light steering can be a disadvantage of this model and lead to trouble. It seems so to me. Nice, pleasant car, but not for every day. EARS is a symbol of a bygone era, a symbol dear to the hearts of many. This car allowed many Soviet families to go to the country to travel. The Zaporozhets was affordable because it cost 2,000 Russian rubles less than the most affordable Ziguli. He even beat them to some extent. Easy to repair, rusted slower. In our time, this machine cannot be considered from a technical point of view. It's just a memory. Do you want a joke about Zaporozhets? I'm sure you already know them. Write in the comments yourself. There are a lot of them. And my hunt continues.